big thank you to everyone who has joined us today, and good afternoon from the AI Native Project, and a very warm welcome to our founding webinar. It's really great to have all of you with us. I'm Hansika, Community Manager at the AI Native Project, and I will be your host and moderator for today's session. Now, before we get started, let me quickly share what the AI Native Project is all about. The AI Native Project is a practitioner community for people who are building or exploring how is AI changing software engineering. The idea is to create a place where people can share their experiences, exchange ideas, and learn from each other, and together shape the future of AI native engineering. Now, before I invite our speakers, let me quickly set the context of the today's conversation. So, over the past couple of years, we have been seeing AI completely changing how software is built. And most of that conversation has been around writing code. But software doesn't just begin with code, it begins with this understanding the problem, making the right discussion, and creating enough clarity before development even starts. And that's exactly what today's conversation is all about. And to help us explore that, we are joined by two wonderful speakers. First, we have Sunil Yadav, co-founder and CTO at Axler. Sunil has spent years of leading engineering teams, designing large-scale technology solutions, and helping organizations rethink how they build software in the age of AI. Joining him is Aman Sharma, Tech AVP at Axler. Aman brings over 16 years of experience in software architecture, engineering leadership, and building AI powered products and solutions. Sunil, Aman, we are both delighted to have you. And with that, over to you, Aman. You can start now.
Hi
Thanks,
everyone.
Anika, and the NED project for having us here.
Yep. Thanks, Ansika. Thanks for inviting us to this webinar. Thanks to the AI Native project. We'll begin right now. Let me just share my screen. Let me know once you're able to see my screen.
Sure.
Is my screen visible now?
Yes, Aman, it's just visible.
All right, guys. So let's start. We're going to be talking about the journey from discovery to development today. And we're talking about building the AI native engineering foundation, if you will. We will discover how AI natives connect discovery, solution design, and development into a continuous software engineering process. So let's start. Uh, to start with, we'll talk about the various ways how people use the term AI native so that we don't conflate the meaning. The first way is it is used as a marketing buzzword. So anyone in today's day and age can use the term AI native. They can slap it to anything vaguely adjacent to AI just to benefit their positioning or engagement on social media, etc. And there's no real operational meaning behind it. So that's one way in which AI native is used. Then we have the product architecture scope, which essentially is when you have a product which is AI native, which is when AI or an LLM sits right at the core or the foundation of the product. The product cannot exist without that model at its core. So you can imagine AI Copilot, right? Those products, there's agentic apps. These cannot be imagined without LLMs sitting at the core of everything they do. There's another new way in which AI native is being used in today's conversations, which is people are referring to the generational workforce as AI native. So this is about the new generation, which is passing right out of college and entering the workforce. So if you think about people who are not from the AI era when it started, who joined the workforce before AI came around, these people were used to tools like Google search, reading tech blogs, and all other such tools to actually execute their work. But the children who were or the students who were in college at that time, They adopted AI native as part of their education itself. And so when they come into the workforce, they have an entirely different perspective about AI native. That to them is a daily usage tool, just like our generation got used to Googling things. They use AI tools, they use Chat GPT as a verb. So that's what an AI native workforce is, right? Then we have the organization operating model. So there's companies which operate their entire business around AI. All of their workflows, their decision making, their staffing ratios, their finances, everything is driven by AI. The entire organization design is based on AI. This aspect is much broader than engineering, but today we'll be talking about the SDLC practice. So this is how the software gets built. Development processes redesigned around AI agents, doing a large share of the work with humans at the gates. And that is what we are going to talk about today.
Let's just understand how we have seen that AI transformation happen, right? Starting from traditional software engineering. So in engineering world, we see that transition started from replacing all that search engines with AI tools. Like people used to go on Stack Overflow or Google to with problem statement, get a snippet from there and use it. It started with the same people going to these all LLMs, public LLMs, OpenAI, Cloud, and all, and they just write a problem statement, get a code piece from there, and use it. Then it got more transformed and become AI assisted, where we see that all our IDEs, plugins in our development tools came up, and we see that autocomplete of code started happening with AI, right? And then it went to the AI-led part of engineering, where we see that a lot of AI tool came in. Now the AI tool will have their own IDs. They were where people were just writing the problem statement, getting a piece of code done completely with their business need, and they just review it and get it done. That is again a piece of code that they were getting done over there. But when we say AI native, how it is end-to-end working, the AI native is starting from requirement understanding, planning, reviewing, and then executing. It's not about just fixing or writing a piece of code. How we can write end-to-end feature, how we can develop end-to-end feature with this planning way of doing it. But at the same time, we say, okay, where we want to go, we say autonomous AI, where we want to go. We build any enterprise features in a way, we write our requirement in a night, and in the morning we wake up. Everything is there, done with testing and everything, and we can just push it to production. That is the nirvana state, we say.
So just before we talk about the actual discovery process, I just want to walk you through the challenge that we are facing when organizations want to move to AI native. So most teams that we come across when they want to go AI native, they just start with using AI to write code. The real foundation actually is laid much earlier in the process, and it starts at the discovery stage. So our traditional software chain, it looks something like this, what you see on screen. It starts with discovery, then we move on to solution design, and after that only we start with development, and then we have QA, right? And then so on and so forth. And from many years ago, since the waterfall model was first conceived, the leverage has always lived in the design and definition, the planning phase, not the build phase. The build phase was the probably arguably the least important one. So applying tools directly to the build phase, it gives us short-term velocity gains, sure, but it causes us long-term architectural pains because we don't see the full picture. Every handoff between these phases, it used to result in the traditional software chain in a loss of information and a loss of business knowledge, decisions, essentially the why behind the how, right? The accumulated this information loss as it accumulates over the various phases, this takes a new meaning in the AI native SDLC or AI native world, and this is called context debt. the gap between what our teams know and what's documented for next stage. So at every stage, we lose knowledge. Humans, when we did not have AI, we used to absorb that loss with experience and conversation. So they used to talk to the product owner, they used to talk to their tech lead, understand the context, and agents, they simply don't. They just execute those gaps because they're not programmed or they're not trained to really ask questions. You give them a task, they'll just run with it with whatever information they have. And they do it at scale and speed, which really exacerbates the problem. The result is that the AI, it builds things that were never required. And we see this in actual execution, these problems. We've seen this when we were starting to move to AI native. Code quality and reusability go out the window, because review is near impossible. AI generates so much code that it is literally impossible for humans to actually review every single line of code. Even every class of code or every module is very difficult. It's just so fast. The fix isn't the code generation part. It's actually to define the right process when you want to move to AI native. And we must train our team to use it. So I'll just briefly walk you over the AI native SDLC. This is our new end-to-end way of building software. And the idea is that the agents, they do the heavy lifting, but the accountability is with the humans. So no one can say, this code was written by the AI. I don't know what it does. You know, it covers all the phases, starting with discovery through to production and beyond production as well, right? Our goal is that every stage should produce artifacts precise enough that the next stage, whether it's run by a human or an agent, can act on them without loss. That's how we minimize context debt. So today's focus will be on discovery, you know, and the principles of this AI native SDLC is we want to focus on the plan first before we execute. We want to have a test driven approach. That's very important. And it's not a new thing, but this is something that gives us reliability and provability. We have human in the loop at every stage. This SDLC defines clear roles and responsibilities at every stage for humans that must be documented so that governance can be ensured. We have automated quality and security guardrails, and the key focus is that we have both quality and security considered. So quality takes care of the output and security takes care of your risk, right? We have a documented single source of truth, which could be Jira or it could be any other ALM that you want to use. It could even be an Excel sheet, but it has to be a single source of truth. We have even defined a shared development rulebook, which has been published and it is available publicly. And we've codified all of this into a working SDLC framework. The full details of this is in our handbook, right? And today, as I said, we'll focus on the stage where the foundation to going AI native is laid, which is the discovery phase.
And I have seen this. This is the biggest, I would say, the myth we have that AI is used for the development. So AI's primary role is to expedite the development. If we see end-to-end journey, development is the part of execution. Before that, you have to do the complete planning. Normally, in any product, any project we do, right, the discovery is the first thing, right? Traditionally, how we used to do, like gather all the requirements from client, document that requirements, all that feature identification and everything. Then we create a wireframes, visual designs, and prototypes to get a confirmation, is that the correct idea that any customer wants to build. Then we, based on that, we define our technical documentation and a high level stories, which will get drilled down when the development will start. Now we say is with AI native SDLC, this complete life cycle will change. Why we say that? Because the transformation is big. The transformation is just not in the process, it is in the mindset and the roles and responsibility also. Likewise, in the AI native SDLC, now we say we will do the same things, but with more depth. So requirement gathering will happen with nth level. Creating prototype will be almost actual product. That gives more clarity to our customers. They have more like visualized of their problem statement, and which gives more clarity building the technical solution, because now we know end to end what we have to build. And at the same time, the technical documentation will be more refined. And the biggest part that will be, I would say that preparation for our development phase will be that actual user stories that we write. That will be so nth level detailed that developers have to go through it, not like having any ambiguity. Okay, these features that needs to be built. And AI native discovery, how we use AI over there. So that documentation is one thing that people use AI, but putting it rightly governed and properly guardrailed, creating right prototypes and complete prototypes, not just to like earlier it used to take so much time if we create the complete prototype. Now with AI we can get that work done, right? That all that I would say that extra work, that lenient work that we can do, it can be done over there, and we have expedite form over there. With AI native SDLC, we know the discovery will be taking more time now than the traditional one. Reason being that scope of discovery is getting increased now. Yeah.
Absolutely, Sunil. And I think once you actually incorporate all of these changes in your discovery process, we see clear benefits by execution. These are empirical results, and we see uh, benefits in four areas: quality, cost, speed, and durability. So on quality, right, we can clearly see that development starts with near zero context debt. Both humans and agents have full context. So whether you start writing code or you start reviewing a story, you have the complete information documented and ready to use. Requirements are agent ready. Now, we mentioned earlier that our SDLC wants to have most of the heavy lifting done by agents. So requirements have to be agent ready. If they're not, agents will fail. Reusability and architecture are preserved. So when we define these processes, and when we defined our technical architecture during the discovery phase itself, we can provide that context to our agents, and they can use that context as and when needed without changing, without making assumptions that they should not. We can specify what components are common components and what should be reused. Speed is an obvious one. There's QA teams which are able to actually start from day one. They don't have to wait for the dev team to actually give them delivery, because they have the entire context. They can define their test cases right on day one. The moment the story is delivered to them, they can start validating. And this cycle has seen increases in speed by leaps and bounds. discovery e- Discovery is definitely going to run longer, but it speeds up the development phase, and that's why we say discovery is the foundation of this entire thing of going AI native. The cost, right? Risk and change. So earlier it was a very common phenomena that come down 3 or 4 sprints, developers realized, how would this be done? This doesn't make sense. And at that point of time, you go back to your product owner, the feature might be redefined or tweaked, and you might take decisions which require changes to a few other things. These risks and changes, they surface during discovery itself when you've not written a lot of code at that time. So it's cheaper to manage. It's a known fact that the later in the process you encounter change or risk, the more costly it is. Estimation is closer to actuals because we have so much more clarity. It involves less guesswork. Sign offs are received on outcomes closer to expectations. So, as Sunil said, we're preparing very close prototypes, which are essentially almost as good as the product itself. And we are even creating multiple iterations of those prototypes. So they're getting refined. So the sign-offs we receive at discovery, they're much closer to the final outcome. We have durability because we have a living knowledge base that is defined as per this SCLC. we know that at any point of time we can go back and refer to for any question. There's a single source of truth because that's how we've defined it. There's no multiple, something lives in the story, some information is coming from the design. As per the AI native SDLC, they have to be harmonized.
And like I always, when you make some changes, there are some challenges comes up, right? For us, like what challenges we faced when we started practicing it. First one is that the biggest one is adoption, right? There was nothing like a predefined process regarding AI native SDL. So this is something we matured with time, and people adopting it was the biggest challenge because it's changing the roles and responsibility. Now we say product owners and then the people who are involved in the discovery, they are just not doing a top layer of requirement. They are going into the nth level of it. So from like just think about it. In the discovery, product owner have to define acceptance criteria for each features they are building. That takes time and effort, and that is a friction people have normally. That was the biggest one, but with the time when practice got started, I see it just became so easy. Another one was like using AI. We all know that AI can generate which is not needed, and that happens very often, right? It just keep generating, and we feel okay, something extra is good, but not here. That is not the part of requirement, and when you see it overall, it is not part of your journey as well. That was something needs to be properly guardrailed. Hallucination is another thing that people give some requirements, and then what is generated is not actually what they mean. That needs to be properly human defined. That human review is that biggest element in the discovery, because documentation generated from AI is easy, but reviewing them is a task. And that is how we say human in the loop, right? Which is anyway needed. It is not a replacement. Right? Another factor that we have seen with our customers working, the two challenges. One is like a lot of AI tools in the market, like they can generate a complete end-to-end prototype working application for you with few prompts, and people feel, wow, my application is ready. But that's not the way. When you really work upon it, then you find it, this is not an application, this is an AI generated application that might not be a requirement even. Looks very nice, fascinating, right? But it's not. Another thing that we have seen this with our customers is like discovery is taking more time. They feel you're using AI. Why it's taking more time now? We have to really explain them that end-to-end product development time is getting reduced, but discovery is taking more time because we are preparing now for the next phase, that is development. We know AI is very good in coding, but to give that exactly what needs to be code is a task that needs to be prepared, and that working will be in the discovery now.
All right. So, just to summarize what we've discussed, right? Delivery quality is set before development begins. So we must start treating discovery as a core part of engineering. It's not just documentation, not just meetings and discussions and preparing stories. It is your foundation of engineering, and in no way we can ignore that, right? Context debt, it's a real constraint, and AI raises its interest rate, right? So what that means is that AI agents do not paper it these gaps in context, and so we must capture the why in writing where it survives every handoff between these phases. We must not let context debt become a problem so large that come down to QA, you realize you've built something that is not even needed, right? Precision is the key to successful handoff between phases. We must ensure that every stage output is good enough that even an agent could just autonomously act on it, even if a human is required to do it, right? Because if we don't do this, then we don't know what we're missing. We must aim for the most precise documentation that we can do, and AI tools today enable us to do it. Actually, it's not impossible now. The last thing, but not least important, is we must start with strategy and people, not tools. Every organization must understand their AI needs and their goals. They must define the AI strategy. They must define the processes, and they then should definitely train people. Because as Sunil mentioned, adoption is a big challenge that we see today. When organizations are trying to go AI native, they're trying to define processes, there is a big pushback in terms of people adopting those processes. So that's a core focus. And I think one of the things we see which has helped us through all this in becoming AI native as we stand today is governance. Governance is a key strategy that we must include as a part of the process, which will help us ensure that the processes we define, the AI strategy we define, is actually working. So, with that, I think I would just like to conclude the presentation. And thank you, everyone, for listening. I'll hand it off back to Hansika now. Hansika, please take it away.
Thank you so much, Aman, and thank you so much, Sunil. That was a really interesting discussion, and I hope everyone found it as insightful as I did. Now we will move to the Q&A. We have collected a few questions from our community members, so I'll go through them one by one. Uh, our discovery and development teams are separate. Where should we start if we want to work this way? This is the first question, Aman. Can you please answer this?
Sure. So I think it's a pretty good question. I think we discussed this earlier. Uh, this is how traditionally teams have been working. That during discovery, there's a separate set of people, and during development, there's a separate set of people. There's a few people, one or two people who might be involved across phases, but for the most part, the development team actually comes into picture after discovery is over. But with the new SDLC, as we have discovered and as we have defined, and as we are actually practicing in our day to day projects, we see that there has to be a lot of overlap in teams. That's the one thing. The second thing is because we are talking about ensuring minimize or minimal context loss, we focus a lot on ensuring that everything that is being discussed in discovery gets documented, the reasons get documented, everything is available for people even who are not a part of discovery. When they come in, that handoff should not cause a situation where they do not have access to information. They're thinking, why is this defined this way? And they have to make an assumption or go back to people or rely on information being fed, which could have changed in the time, you know, uh, in the time from when it was defined up until when they asked the question, or could have been completely lost. So our processes essentially help with that. The SDLC helps with that. So it doesn't matter whether you have two separate teams or a lot of overlap between the teams running discovery and development. If you follow the SDLC, you will see that the context loss is minimized. It will not be a problem. That's the entire idea.
Okay. We have one more question from Sahil. If discovery is the most important stage, what AI tools or workflows do you recommend for the discovery phase rather than just code generation?
Like Aman already mentioned in the last slide, that it is not about tools, it is about the process. So I just give you an
Yeah.
example. Like if we are managing our
Okay.
project into a Jira or Trello or Bugzilla, how does it matter? For my development, if I'm using Eclipse, IntelliJ, how does it matter? It's my comfort, my organization's comfort, right? It's about the process, how we use tools correctly. And we are talking about that, like AI native SDLC or this process is beyond tools. It is how we are actually using in practice. So it really doesn't matter which tool is being used by your organization. but just like how you use it, that can be improved and can be included in the AI native SDLC.
Okay, thank you so much, Sunil. One more question we have is you mentioned agent ready requirements. What does that actually look like in practice? Can you please help with this, Aman?
Sure, I'll try my best. So, when we talk about agent ready, anything being agent ready, whether it's requirement, we spoke about requirements, there's a lot more things. Everything has to be agent ready. We spoke about that. What we mean is that when we actually execute any step in our SDLC process, whether it's at a development stage or even at the QA stage, we're doing everything, we're doing all the heavy lifting using AI agents. And whatever documents are there, they're made accessible to agents. And we want them to be so thorough, so optimized that agents can actually take the right context. It should not be so big that agents basically overflow with context or get overwhelmed with context. It should not be repetitive. It should be optimized and there should be no leakage. So there are ways which we have discovered and we have defined in our SDLC, which allow us to actually create the right context and the complete context for agents to execute any step. The humans must review the outcome 100%, but the agent should be just able to pick up the single source of truth, as we called it, whatever you're using. If it's Jira, you can pick up Jira, as Sunil said, Trello, whatever it is, could very well be an Excel sheet, as I mentioned. But the agent should be able to pick it up, find all the information. It should also have context about what has already been implemented as part of the ongoing sprints, or if during discovery, what has already been discovered, and then go from there so that it makes minimal mistakes, takes minimal assumption. Hope that answers the question.
Yes, thank you so much, Aman. We have one more question from Aman Shakya. When you talk about prototypes, is it necessary for them to be highly interactive for a better understanding of the AI? What are the best uh, prototyping tools available right now?
So we have to understand here what we are talking about prototype here. So we say prototypes are the outcome of discovery. So we says we can create most of the interactive, highly interactive prototypes with AI in AI native SDLC. That prototype, that nth level of prototyping is helping our customer to see and envision their product, and that will be helpful for the development. So when we say the next phase it goes, so next phase, the premium requirement, the primary requirement of our developers will be the prototype, the user story, and technical document. The combination of three works for them to get things executed rightly and fast. So prototype is an outcome of discovery and not for that AI. And what
Absolutely.
about the tool, as you ask, Aman? There are multiple tools in the market and used for different purpose. Just for the wireframing, there are Google-based tools. For prototyping, there are like Figma is there, Figma Make is there for AI that we also prominently use.
Yeah, and in fact, Sunil, we've seen in a couple of our projects, isn't it, that even our clients are going towards prototyping. So in our recent
Okay.
project, if you remember, in one of them, the client paused mid-discovery because they got this idea that they want to build something, they wanted to validate with customers. So they themselves built a prototype using Cloud Code, and it
Oh,
was a live prototype. They shared that with their a few of their customers, got feedback, and then came back to us because what they built, it looked rudimentary, it wasn't production ready, and that's not the expectation. But the point was they wanted to basically validate their idea, and they got lovely feedback on that, and they came back to us with that feedback and shared the prototype with us. And the discovery, which would have earlier taken a couple of months, was we were able to close discovery in a couple of weeks because we had a working prototype that actually answered most of our questions. There were no assumptions to be made. So it's really helpful.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Aman. One more question we have. Does this approach also work for legacy system or is it mainly for the new projects?
So if you see this, how AI native agency we see here, it doesn't matter like you already have a system in place or you are doing a anything like in a greenfield project, right? It's about again the same thing how you are doing it. Having any legacy system, what you are building on top of that, that can be arranged in the same AI native way. For sure, there will be steps will be differently done, but the process will be same.
Okay, um, moving on to the next question. Are we going to focus on prompt engineering learning going forward since we are focusing on prototyping?
Okay, I think I can probably take this. So see, prompt engineering or prototyping, these are two different set of tools. They're not related, right? Prompt engineering is essentially learning how to correctly prompt AI, and there's been many advances in that area. People have gone on from prompt engineering to agentic engineering, and now they have loop engineering, which I think Sunil spoke about in terms of like autonomous AI development. And these things essentially will keep evolving. These are just ways in which you interact with your agents, right? As agents evolve, as they get better at understanding, better at collecting context, these things will evolve. What prototyping does is prototyping helps humans.
So I think we are coming to the close. Um, all right, I think that was a really good session. I got to learn a lot, and I hope all of you got to learn the same way that I feel right now. And before we sign off, I just wanted to introduce that our next community event is an in person meetup in Noida called Transforming Teams from AI Assisted to AI Native. So if you are based around Noida, we would love if you could be here. We will love. We would be sharing more details in the community very soon. So that's all from us today. We hope to see you many of in the meetup. Until then, I think it's a great time to say goodbye, and we hope that you will be there. Thank you,
Thank you
everyone,
everyone
for
for
joining
joining.
us.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Ansika.
everyone. Thank you, Ansika, for having us. Bye bye.
Bye.